Hello, pack members, it's your girl Half Wolf here, and welcome to the adventures of Stickman Joe. So, looks like this is a choose your own adventure style game. Excuse me, I'm eating breakfast. I just woke up like 15 minutes ago. So, got a maple donut flavored protein. The smell hit him first. That metallic taint was the first sign that something was wrong. Joe walked a little further into the room and nearly vomited. There, it wasn't her body with its clothes already stained red from lying in a pool of blood. It was her severed head staring back at him from the kitchen table. Joe's wife had been murdered, and the only clues were the bloody axe they used to chop off her head and the muddy footprints leading to the back door. Which path does he choose? If I take the bloody axe, I can probably take it with me when I go to inspect the footprints. Just a minute. We're not going to call in a favor this time because Beastie takes forever to text back. So we're going to look at the bloody axe. When Joe picked up the axe, he saw the initials RR engraved in the handle, but that's not possible, Joe thought. He's been in jail for at least 7 years. And yet that didn't change the fact that Joe's wife was growing cold on the laminated floor. Joe knew what he had to do. He headed into the forest, following a trail long since covered with weeds and briar bushes. He worried that he had forgotten the way, a fact that became painfully clear when he came to a fork in the road. Both were marked with rusted signs. One read dead end ahead, and the other said no trespassing. Joe's heart beat faster and faster as he neared the house. Sorry, I've been having trouble. Oh wait, that's better. He still remembered the day they hauled that monster to jail. Joe had made the mistake of letting his guard down after that day. He thought their fight was finally over. He thought wrong. The house slowly came into view the way a body slowly floats to the top of the lake. The place looked abandoned, and a hasty terror-fueled inspection of the place proved this observation to be true. Yes? The place looked exactly as Joe had last remembered it. The only two things that seemed to be missing were RR's car and his boat. The car must have had something wrong with it because there was a trail of oil leading in the direction of the city, but the lake was closer if RR was out on his boat. Both paths lead completely opposite directions, and every moment Joe stood there trying to decide, his wife's murderer got further and further away. Which does Joe go? Well, if there's a trail of oil leading to the city, then you'd figure RR had taken the car. Joe was getting discouraged. His wife was dead and the killer was still at large. No matter what Joe did, he still felt like he was running in circles. The best lead he had on was RR's house, and that was a complete bust. The only clue he'd found there was a missing car with breadcrumb oil trails leading him to the city. As Joe walked in between the skyscrapers, he felt more hopeless than ever. But then he saw it. RR's car. It stopped at a stoplight, about to turn green. Joe could either chase him on foot and use various shortcuts he knew or he could hotwire a car and try to chase him down. We're going to do foot. Joe was only able to follow the car for about a block before a piano fell on him. He saw the movers transporting it to an upper-story apartment, but he never thought the ropes would break as he ran under it. He was wrong. Well, that was a sad end. So let's try to hotwire a car. Joe's life could have gone very differently. But the path he chose led him to this point. He found his way to the city, he spotted RR's car, and now he'd chased down his wife's killer in a hot wire car. RR turned left. Joe was hot on his tail. In just a few blocks, Joe was inches away from ramming into RR's bumper, but then another man made an abrupt U-turn that left Joe reeling. By the time Joe caught up with the car, RR had already split. Joe could either get out and start looking for him on foot, or stay in the car and try to cover more ground. Joe was backing the car up so he could search for RR, but he didn't see the tractor trailer that had ran a red light. He didn't even see the pedestrians trying to warn him. The last thing he did before his skull was cracked against the steering wheel was a little girl's red balloon floating up to the sky. Last thing he did see. Okay, so we're gonna get out. God damn it. Yes. Yes. After a few near-death experiences, Joe's path finally seemed to be coming to an end. When RR's trail led Joe into a crowded subway platform. A decade ago, Joe never thought, or would have never imagined that he would be hunting down someone Joe used to consider his best friend. But the military had changed him. Joe grew into the idolized American hero, and RR found a sinister way of making money. Joe thought he was doing the right thing by reporting RR and his illegal trading, but RR retaliated, and Joe's still not sure if it was worth it. Thank you, love.
Yep.
Thinking of that fateful day 7 years ago reminded Joe of where he and RR had their final standoff. And because RR always did have a flair for the dramatic, Joe knew that's where he had to be again. Joe was getting ready to get out of the subway when someone ran past him. Joe tried to ignore him, but his paranoia told him that it had something to do with RR. Should he chase after him or go with his gut? I'm gonna go with her gut. Joe took the subway uptown. He got off at the tallest skyscraper in Sticksville. Joe hadn't been there since he'd last led the cops here all those years ago. As Joe rode the elevator to the top floor and climbed the last few steps to the roof, he was flooded with old fears and sorrows. RR had trusted him with his secret, but Joe's consciousness couldn't handle the guilt of knowing that what his friend was doing was wrong. Never in a million years would Joe think RR would be capable of doing what he had done. But now Joe knows better. Joe opened the door to the roof. There, standing on the edge of the roof, was Raleigh Roy, a.k.a. RR. The man turned to Joe and had the audacity to smile. Joe was overcome with rage. 7 years ago, Joe had lost his son to this man. Today, he lost his wife. As far as Joe was concerned, he didn't have anything left to lose. Joe had planned on just turning RR into the cops. But now that he was here, it would be so easy just to push him off the edge, and then Joe would never have to worry about RR hurting him ever again. If only Joe could live with the guilt. What does Joe do? Well, considering the fact that there are no right or wrong answers here, we're going to push him off. Okay, sorry. Joe ran at RR. Joe ran at him. RR didn't even put up a fight. Joe couldn't even hear the body hit the ground. He just saw all the pedestrians run away like ants. Cops showed up a few minutes later. They found Joe still standing on the ledge of the building. He confessed to everything, right then and there. In the following days, Joe was sentenced to live in prison. Not that it mattered. Joe had nothing now. No home, no family, and no friends. Joe lived a long and miserable life until the age of 76 when he was shanked in a prison riot. Okay, let's see what we do about this. Joe calls the cops and they show up a few minutes later. Joe has nothing to say to RR. And so he settles for glaring at the man as he's put under arrest. RR gets sentenced to life in prison, but he gets shot attempting to escape a few weeks later. Meanwhile, Joe goes to therapy and learns to start over. His life is never the same, but at least he's able to live with himself. Okie dokie then, that was Stickman Joe. That was an interesting thing. Like, pretty interesting. I do want to go back and see what happens if we chase after him. Joe stepped back onto the platform and instantly knew he'd made a mistake. The man running got lost in the crowd, and Joe could feel himself being jostled by the people surrounding him. He was getting ready to climb back onto the subway car when he felt a sharp pain in his side. Turned to see what happened, but nobody was there, and then he looked down and saw a knife sticking out of his body. Joe heard somebody scream before the whole world blacked and he collapsed. So that's how that one ends. I don't think... yeah, okay. So yeah, that is the, that is Stickman Joe. If you guys like this video, be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you have not already. Be sure to give that notification bell a high five so you can be notified every single time we upload a new video. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!